Oh,
Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, I'm excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. You don't have a lot of envy. You don't have a lot of resentment. You don't overspend your income. You stay cheerful in spite of your troubles. You deal with reliable people and you do what you're supposed to do. All these simple rules work so well to make your life better. Charlie Munger. Our guest today, I'd be as distraught and more distraught as I am. Uh, our friend Charlie passed as of this recording last night. Our friend who's joining us for this podcast today represents their own values that people, I'm sure, en masse, me included, will show up to their eulogy to read poems and quotes and talk about the values of their life, the values of the company. We're going to be talking about values today. So I thought it'd be fitting to share a quote from our friend Charlie Munger. Robert Frehafer is back to talk about authentic. When we do not interrupt others, their authenticity becomes clearer to us. The A in Guardian Roofing and Siding. He's a mentor to many, friend to more, an enemy to few. Thanks for coming back.
thanks for having me back, Jay. That was you're very poetic today for before 6 in the morning.
I like some like before 6 in the morning. That's like what came up in my head when you said that. Maybe I'm coping. I'm coping with the loss of our friend who's impacted both of us. Um, I think there's a strain of Charlie in everyone that I've ever touched metaphorically. And on November 28th of 2023, passed a month before his 100th birthday. So, you know, some of that's going to drip over into this conversation today on authentic. Here's another quote. Without the method of learning, you're like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. It's not just going to work very well. Charlie Munger said that. Uh,
Well, I appreciate you sharing that text with me last night that he passed away. And I know that's somebody that's been very impactful and influential in your life and mine too now because you've made me aware of who he is and who what Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett and all these those key influential people. Even when you I remember seeing the you in like a packed out sports arena for their what is it that they do there in that big sports arena again, their yearly minutes shareholders meeting.
it's kind of like when you get all the guardians together in the guardhouse.
Like the quarterly meeting.
Just add 54,990 or so people.
Yeah.
um Man, relationships, memories, insights, vision, goals, questions could be asked. It's really something. And now it'll be missing one person, you know, one of the main people, 50% of the value. He's graduated. I'd like to think he's fighting intergalactic war. He's been given, some type of acknowledgement for how he served his fellow, man.
Yeah.
I actually think it's interesting that we're talking about this today. Coincident, like it's just unfolded last night before we're going to record this episode on authentic. But when I read the A in Guardian, when we do not interrupt others, their authenticity becomes clear to us. It makes me think if you weren't present and just wanted to steamroll this conversation, like about whatever, oh, let's talk about authentic. It'd be like really ironic because you're you're listening and not interrupting my digression, and then who I am is like, here I am. I'm upset. Charlie. Does anything come to mind or like help me out or unpack that? Because I think there's a lesson in that.
So, sure, things come to mind with that. Um, it's one of the easiest things for me to just. I don't have a lot of emotional attachment to Charlie Munger. That's the reality. I look at it that he's in that, and this, and so the concerning part for me, what I'm going to say is that, oh, that could really hurt your feelings, right? But that's where the other values come in. I don't have a lot of emotional attachment to Charlie Munger. I have an outside view that he was 99 years old. He lived from the little bit that I know, he lived a life that he chose to live, and stuck with it all the way through till the end, and found value in what he did. So I look at it from an outside view, like, oh man, this guy really, he did what he wanted to do. This is awesome. But what's more important to me, like, I don't want to say more important, but the other thing that goes through my mind is that this guy is like, he is somebody that I think I saw you posted like an idol of yours, somebody that you really looked up to. You respected his decision making, his, more than likely, the duo between Warren and Charlie, the two personalities working together and how they held each other in tension. I would assume that you would be really considering, oh man, how does this impact Warren Buffett, right? Like his buddy, his friend, his pal, the grieving of it. So all that being said, like those are the things that are going through my mind more, like, oh, how is Jay? How's my friend? He's lost somebody that's close to him, even though somebody else from the outside would be like, how's that guy close to him? Well, from my understanding, you spent like a year or something not watching TV and reading their freaking minutes of their business shareholders meetings. And so you reading the same information that he read or that he wrote or that he was impacted by, or reading the same books, I would assume. So rather than assume, did you read books that he also read or wrote or were about him?
Oh yeah, maybe 100. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I look at it like, all right, I want to be sensitive. I want to be not, I'm sensitive and caring for what you're going through, because the way that I handle my, the way that I handle people that are around me is, it's a direct reflection of myself to them, and it's going to, and I think that there's just something inside that God has given me of an empathy for people that are going through pain and struggling, suffering. And this one particular is like the most important death, right? Like that's for any pain and suffering, like it's in this world, from this world's perspective, it's over, it's final, it's gone, it's empty, he's gone, it's empty, he's not here. You just mentioned it, what questions could be asked, what things could be done, and even you presuppose where he may be right now, fighting intergalactic battles, right? Your brain is like creating this narrative to potentially create resolution. Now that's my psychological view, right? But ultimately we want to have some peace, right? Like, so even for me, the very first thing I did, and I'll share some personal. As soon as you sent it, right? Like, I'm like, oh man, that's going to be a big deal to him. I thought, I wasn't sure, so I did ask you after you sent it, because you never know how it's going to affect some. I don't know how it's going to affect somebody. I've never dealt with you having, well, with the exception, you had another person that you met that passed away while we've been together. Gentleman that was a roofer, door knocking guy, and he passed away, and that hit you pretty good. So that being said, I did looked into Charlie Munger, probably 15-20 minutes, like, what's Charlie Munger's faith? What did Charlie believe? Is Charlie Munger a Christian? And everything that I found, it continued. He was pretty clear to put a wall up, and in shareholder meetings when he was asked, and this and that, and Buffett in the meetings that I've seen to this point, the videos, he said, I'm agnostic. He said, I'm a true agnostic. I'm not an atheist. I'm not a theist. I'm right in the middle. I don't know. And he's pretty clear with that. And Munger continued to say, like, he wouldn't answer it. He said, I don't want to talk about it. And then one time, one of the videos I saw, he was talking about like Einstein and Einstein's relationship to God, and how it's a puzzle, and it's you would have to read between the lines and I would have to read between the lines. So the reason that I looked at that is because I was hopeful to give you some peace of mind. Like, hey, this guy is a proclaimed Christian, and he's not dead and gone. He is in heaven, in eternity. I didn't. So it's a very important part of me to be sensitive to you, Jay, and I was hopeful to bring some great positive information about Charlie Munger and potentially his faith, and to shine light on the fact that may be able to see him again and spend time with him in eternity. But I haven't done an exhaustive look, and what I found, everything that I had found, he just didn't want to talk about those things. He didn't really in the short amount of time that I spent looking. So that was based off of listening to you, and asking how that impacted you, and understanding empathy, and some death considerations. When you say, what do I think about, like, how could I listen to you and talk about these things? It's like, I go round and round with it. On one hand, I think any reasonable person would be like, what's wrong with you, Jay? Why would you, I'll say me, why would you be so emotionally attached to this guy? Me knowing you, spending time with you, being closer with you, to understand how much, you do care and admire, and have read and shared in so many similar things. Even if you weren't side by side, you did the same things that he had done, and you aspire to do those things. It's a loss, and it brings up a part in all of us that we see every day on a daily basis in this world, that people are dying. So that's where the values of the right, authentic, not interrupting, and understanding and listening, their authenticity becomes clear. It's applied. And it's like when anybody gets sick or dies or something like that, real tragic goes on. It's like, for me anyway, and what I've seen other people experienced, like, their world gets shook, it gets rocked. And what I mean by that is, to say as clear as I can, the priorities change. Whatever was a priority can be shifted. The weight of, oh, I gotta go, whatever, wash my car. I don't know. It's a very simple priority, but you just might not care as much about those things because of the loss or the pain or the other things that, sickness and death that come in. So I just think that as a friend, it's I want to listen, right? I want to hear what's going on. I want to give you the opportunity to have an outlet to talk about these things. It's it's counter to a lot of what I see go on in the world. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of that empathy and listening in my daily walk anyway, unless I'm just only surrounded by a bunch of, self-centered, insecure people that want to defend themselves and their viewpoints and yeah. So before I go into another tangent about psychological viewpoint, yeah. So I care. So that's the reason for the authenticity and and I can listen to your authenticity, and it's something that is I'll say this in all vulnerability. I'll say this additional part because you even say like, okay, you've listened, you've remained quiet and let me talk when I could have steamrolled and taken over and talk about, oh, this is how we use it in Guardian and this is what we do. But there's still a little part in the back of my mind where, I'm listening, but I want to say intention, but that's not the right word. I have a motivation to listen. One, I care about you, but there's this other, like, the word ulterior motive, right? There's this other motivation that I have this desire to impact you, that you would proclaim faith in Christ as your Lord and Savior of your life. So listening to you and understanding you, and then not in a manipulative way, like, you see, this is how it is. Death is not natural, because it's true. Death is not natural. We were not put here. But when we can understand that feeling, and then we can look death in the face, like, here's your role model. Here's a person that you look up to. He is dead and gone, and we can look at this world and what did he do, and he did well. And even when I was Googling him yesterday, it was like he was known for what he's built in this Berkshire Hathaway, like, and like, already on Wikipedia, there's stuff on there about him passing away within minutes of you sending me the link, like, hey, he passed. It's like it already was, you know what I mean? He was this, he was that. So things happen really quickly, and it's resemblance of, we have this medium here that we're in the world, and it's finite, it's temporary, but there's an eternity that's more, right? And they're all intertwined. So for me, I do have another motivation. I have a motivation to care, to listen, because I'm your friend and we have this relationship. But also I'm blessed with a opportunity, a responsibility to share eternal things with you. Because so that being said, I'm saying that because even the value that I have written on the wall of authentic, that says, when we do not interrupt others, their authenticity becomes clearer to us. Well, it doesn't negate the fact that I still have my own thoughts, my own desires, my own motives, things that I would like to be impactful in a positive way. Now, from a psychological standpoint, I think like, oh, well, could then I always be, or could you, as my counterpart, Jay, be viewing me like, oh, he's always has this ulterior motive? Yeah, yes, I have ulterior motives all the time. Like, I have my worldview, you have your worldview. I think it's like when we can like accept that we're human, we have these motives, we have our own desires, passions, views that are meshing together, and we can care for and love each other while sharing them. And that's where the truest to my experience so far, the truest form of love is in that interaction. Like, when I'm vulnerably telling you, like, yeah, I really want you to be a believer because I want you to go to eternity with God in eternity forever, not like secretly hiding it off and trying to impose my will on you, without my word, action, etc. So good job bringing this back to authentic on your end, because you're good at that. and I want to go. I'm like, oh, I want to go back to the Charlie Munger talk, right? Because I don't want to talk over you and steamroll you. This is, and maybe it's not the right medium right now either. We're on a podcast for everybody to hear. Um, so that being said, I appreciate you still showing up, doing what we got to do at 6 a.m. Even though there's a major loss, and we can talk about it. I know you have a limited amount of time, and I still, because even though yesterday you texted and I asked a question through text, and I could see today that it's heavily impactful to you. I'd like to know, like, how is that so impactful? Why do you think that's so impactful for you? And and what are you going to do? Are you going to like try to figure out where the services are and do something?
I
I
got another quote. In my whole life, I have known no wise people over a broad subject matter area who didn't read all the time. None. Zero. You'd be amazed at how much Warren reads and at how much I read. My children laugh at me. They think I'm a book with a couple of legs sticking out. Or Charlie's Almanac. Another quote.
hold on. Let's pause there for a second. So yesterday was a pretty impactful day for me, like for us, right? Like
Yes.
you gave me this book. It's right over there. I'm looking right at it. The Chick-fil-A, Inspire More People. You wrote on the inside, like, to Robert, this reminds me of you, or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
true at Kathy. You guys are similar.
And as I read the book, there was emotional ups, downs, like, you know, I've heard people say, like, oh, just curl up with a good book. Like, I can't even say it without having inflection in my voice, because I was like, what is that? Like, go live life, like go be the book, create the book, right? Like that was my mindset. And I've gotten a lot of value out of reading that book. It's finished. I finished it yesterday, and it was monumental. And I wanted to stop here because, one, with reading, great. Thank you very much for the book. I put you out as a shout out on my social media post, but truly, thank you for that book. Thank you for your for sharing your view of me with me, and and yeah, that guy is awesome. I do see a lot of things that are similar, but there are also a lot of things that I'm like, man, he just had so much go and drive and things for doing a heart for children and ministry and all these things. Like, that was really awesome. But the one thing I wanted to talk about right here was at the end of the book, his children came together, and on like the last two pages they wrote like a commitment, a covenant to how they're going to live their life, how they're going to represent the brand, what they're going to do for Chick-fil-A, how they realize that Chick-fil-A supports the ministry and the philanthropy that they can give, and they're going to uphold these things, their commitment to Christ, their father, raising their family. And wow, like, what a testament to that man, Truett Cathy, and then ultimately to God, that he's been able to pull this together and make these things happen, and that he was able to read that. His children read it to him, they wrote it for him, they committed to it to him. What a beautiful transition for him to see. And like you mentioned, like, introducing me in the beginning, like at my funeral, right? Like, he wasn't even dead, right? He was alive, and they were able to say, this is our commitment, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. So but it was, as I was reading it, it was like he died in the book, because I believe he did die since then, but it was like that transition. It was like they're promising they're going to do this. I literally was in tears, dude, reading the thing for multiple reasons. One, it's like, oh, what a great ending to this that now he has his children, and it even says like they even write out like for them and the generations to come, like that they're going. That's their plan, is to maintain the brand, to be able to continue to do the Lord's work. So it was really nice for him to understand it, like because of business owners' view for me, right? Like, all right, well, you care about something, you do something so much, like, what is it? Because it isn't just the money, right? Money is good, but it's also the vision, the purpose. There's meaning. There's, people say blood, sweat, and tears that are put into this stuff, and it was really nice to see how they honored him in that way. And I agree with that Charlie Munger talking about reading. I when I joke about like, oh, someone just curling up with a good book, like I want it now. Like I want, and it's still there's something inside of me that like when I start to read, I'm like all over the place. But there's these times when I can just slow down, read, go back, read it again, and get impacted by it. It just slows me down a little bit, centers me, and I learn stuff. And it doesn't have to be a ton of reading. 10 minutes or something like this can be very impactful. So yeah, I will look to honor your friend Charlie Munger and how he's impacted you, and now have you have impacted me, and to continue to read. And I've been encouraging others to read by sharing, telling them how it's impacted my life. My son, we went to Barnes and Nobles on Sunday, I think it was Saturday, and we got a couple books, and we're going to read and talk about them and trade them. So it's impactful. So if that's something that impacted you, that quote, well, then you've impacted me, and I will attempt to impact other people. So the influence and impact of Charlie Munger lives on.